Hey, I guess my intro's not working today. Weird. I guess we're not doing the intro today. Well, you take a couple days off, you come back, nothing works. I guess that's how it goes. Let me readjust here just a little bit. There we go. All right, episode 11. So we are back after a couple of days break to continue working on mixing the second AfterWinter album, Boundless. We're going to be doing some fancy extra stuff today, so let's not waste too much time. All right, up to Logic. Here we go. See if we can get this thing working the way it's supposed to be working. One would hope. We're getting there. Okay, so right now we are yet again looking at Poison in the Well. Now there is a reason for that. We are going to be making a couple of small changes. We're going to export the small changes, and then we're going to take a look at mastering. Hopefully we can master at least the first draft master for this one and Boundless, and then we're going to jump over into Forgotten Wanderer where we're actually at in the mixing. So the couple of changes that I want to make are really small. I want to change out the Black Salt Audio de-esser to the Aosis one, which is a change we made in Boundless. There we go. And I've got a default setting that I use, that one right there. Switch out the lead vocal one as well. Oh boy, are we moving slow today. Here we go. So we've got both of those things set the way we want. I also think I'd like to review. I was listening to some stuff over the weekend, actually just yesterday. I mowed my yard, which is a great time to review mixed stuff in headphones. And it seemed like maybe the bass drum was a hair quiet in both songs. We're going to turn our limiter on and just kind of review that real fast. If we were to turn up the bass drum like half a decibel, does it now seem too loud? Yeah, I think it's okay. Dad's here just for a few minutes on a break. Nice. Well, a few minutes is better than nothing. I keep hoping that I'll get a break in students in the evening so that I can do these in the evening like we were a couple weeks ago. But at the moment, these afternoon slots are what I've got the most of. Okay, so this is going to mute my mic for a little while, but this is where we're at. So we're going to... we swapped out the de-esser on the lead vocals, the background vocals. We turned the bass drum up just a hair. These are changes that I was thinking needed made over the weekend. We're going to do the same thing to Boundless, but we need to export this now. Now, I did export this once before, but since we made some changes, we're going to do it again. And I am quite sure that is going to mute my mic when we get down to it. Okay, all right, jeez, that took a long time. So you can see why I try to resist doing that on stream, but for what we needed to start with today, that's what we needed to do. Okay, so now we need to switch over into a new project where we are going to take a look at the mastering chain. Now again, once I actually click some stuff here, my mic is going to be muted again, not for near that long. It'll just be like just a tiny little bit. But we do have a mastering template right here. All right, here we go. Back in a sec. Okay, you guys should be hearing me again now. So we needed to set up our mastering template so that we can actually send what we're hearing out to the stream here. There we go. That is our stream bit. Okay, so what we're looking at here is the template that I use to master songs. You can see there's a lot less going on here. We have an audio track at the top for the song, and then we have the master volume, and then we have 4 auxiliaries, or buses, which are basically just splitting the song into 4 frequency ranges. We're using the multipressor, which should be a familiar screen to all of you by now. And we're going to be taking a look at that stuff first. We've got lots of stuff to do here on this one. So the first thing we're going to do is import the thing that we just exported. So we're going to grab our bounce for Poison in the Well. There we go. And we're importing all of the tempo information and markers and stuff so that we can see all of that. We've got Poison in the Well in here now. There it is. Now I do need to create a pre-master, I think, here, so that you guys can hear the song as well.
Let's
Yeah, let's make bus 31, which we're going to call pre-master, except for that I need to spell it right. This is also going to be a pink one because it's stream related. This needs to send to the stream and also to the speakers. Right. Okay, yeah, we're getting there. Okay, I think we've got what we need now so that you guys can also hear what's happening. Okay, so the first thing that we need to do is just listen through the song, and basically we just want a peak level reading. So this little box right here needs to say -5. So we're going to listen through the song, make sure that says -5. If it doesn't, and it probably won't, we'll adjust this volume until it does, and then on we'll go. The only thing we are doing to the song right at the moment is we have this channel EQ, high passing, anything, we're getting rid of anything 30 hertz and below, basically. So just, again, sub-frequency information that most of us shouldn't be able to hear anyway. All right, let's give this thing a listen here. Well, I don't know about you guys, but I was definitely still just a little bit sick of that song. It feels like, oh, it's a step backwards. We're doing this one again. But I will say this, it sounds really good. I think we did a good job on it. Okay, so as I mentioned, the only reason we were listening to that is because we needed a peak level, which over here is negative 5.7. We need it to be 5. So we're going to raise this channel by 0.7 so that we can get a nice flat negative 5 going into everything else we need to do. The next thing, one of the most important things, is that we are going to set the starting and stopping point for this song. So we have our master channel right here, which is the master volume at the end of everything. It looks like it's right here in the chain, but it's actually the last thing that everything we're about to do hits. So if we turn this volume up and down, it's the last thing that gets affected. So we put a volume envelope on this. We're going to zoom way into the beginning. We're looking here right at where the song starts. And as you can see, this actually starts a little bit before count 1, right about there. We're going to make a couple of nodes here. And then we're going to set it kind of like we're looping it. And the beginning is going to be right at the beginning of this fade in. So this is like a milliseconds long fade in. This fade in is so quick, nobody's going to know that anything faded in. It's fading in silence, basically. But this is guaranteeing us that the first thing we're going to hear when the track starts is the track. No pop or click or anything like that because it starts with a fade in. Then we're going to jump out here to the end, and we need to set the fade out. I mentioned this a couple of times when we were mixing this song, that I want those clean guitars to slowly fade out. So first off, okay, so 328 is where the song stops, but I want to wait to start the actual fade out until a lot of this other stuff has kind of decayed. So I'd say maybe right here at 338 is about where I'm looking. I want to put a node here. We'll go right to the visible end of the sound and put a node there. Thank you for calling that out, Eli. Yes, I already completely forgot that I needed to solo this mic. So I've been talking for a while, and you haven't been hearing it. Dang it. Ah! Okay, so what we're going to do here now that you can hear what I'm saying, what we're going to do now is set the multi-pressing for these. So we've got our song exporting into these 4 buses, which each has a multipressor on it. Each multipressor has its range soloed. So we're going to compress each range and then mix the 4 ranges together. I can't believe I did that. Now we're looking for this to do a little bit more than it did in the mix phase. So we are going to be pulling this arrow, which is the amount of compression, down until we're seeing this, which is a visual representation of how much it's compressing, go down just a little bit more than we were seeing when we were mixing. We don't want it to be doing nothing, but this is still more of a safety net than it is trying to compress the entire signal. We're wanting it to compress a little bit the whole time and a little bit more if there's something particular jumping out. So we don't want to judge this in the intro because there's a lot of double bass there. Let's take a listen to the chorus and see if we can set this arrow. I'd say that's about right there. So as you can see, we're compressing a little bit more than we were when we were using this in the mix phase. But we want to be sure too, the reason that I've soloed this while we're doing this is because I want to make sure that I'm not hearing ducking, which is basically another word for over-compression, right? I want to make sure, just like I mentioned in a couple episodes ago, that I'm not hearing the compressor work. We are compressing it to make it flatter, but also we don't want it to sound unnatural. So we want to compress so that we're hearing a little, or we're seeing a little bit of compression throughout most, a little bit more when we're hearing particularly low-end things, but not enough that we're actually hearing the volume dip. That would be super distracting in the song. So if we jump back, or maybe I'm totally wrong. Well, I guess what that means is that we've done a really good job multi-pressing those low-end frequencies in the mix. So there, it's popping just a little bit more. Okay, same thing here. And this is almost always jumping down a little bit, particularly when the snare hits. Might be a hair too much. Okay, yeah. So again, it's important to use your ears when you're doing this stuff too. That's maybe one of the biggest tips I keep seeing people say all the time is mix with your ears, not with your eyes, which is becoming harder and harder with all these fancy things we have to look at, right? So we are basing the amount of compression on a thing we're seeing, but you also want to make sure you're listening and not hearing that compression work. So I was seeing that line bounce a little bit more than maybe I would want to, but if I ignored that and just listened, I was hearing what I wanted to hear. So sometimes important to strike that balance. Okay, let's move into our high mids. So now we're looking at range number 3 here.
The world gets darker every day. We claim we're making progress. We're moving backwards. We used to like the darkness, but the world looks to a new light. It's manufactured.
They won't listen to you. There's a reason they whip.
Okay, yeah, feeling pretty good about that. Okay, and finally our high frequencies. Now this we want to work pretty quickly. Okay, the high frequencies, which we're looking at 7,500 hertz and above, can actually damage your hearing if you listen to them for too long. So we want to be pretty quick about this. Usually this does need a pretty good amount of compression, so I'm going to go ahead and pull it down pretty far in the first place so that we can try and get through it fairly quickly. I do not want to listen to this for very long.
You stopped making sense. Started constantly taking offense. You can't hate a person's life.
Yeah, okay, good with that. Don't think I want to judge this based on the intro. Let's jump out to the chorus.
Guardians of His word. We are called to strengthen our purpose. The world looks to us, but what they see is indifference. Temptations of power have blinded many. Within His house they dwell. Our message hated, the water's tainted. There's poison in the well. The world gets darker every day. We claim we're making progress. We're moving backwards. We used to like the darkness, but the world looks to a new light. It's manufactured.
They won't listen to you. There's a reason they withdrew. You stopped making sense. Started constantly taking offense. You can't hate a person's life. They think they'll come to God despite all the things you put them through. They don't think of God. They remember you.
It's not easy to admit. The world sees straight through us and they rejected it.
Okay, I'm pretty good with that as a starting point. So yeah, we did end up with the low mids down just like half a decibel, which doesn't make a huge amount of difference, but let's do that same thing. If we go right before chorus 1 and play it to about halfway through that verse, we should see this say -5, and also this say something near -5. It might be less since we turned a little bit of this down and because all of that's getting compressed.
Guardians of His word, we are called to strengthen our purpose. The world looks to us, but what they see is indifference. Temptations of power have blinded many. Within His house they dwell. Our message hated, the waters tainted. There's poison in the well. The world gets darker every day. We claim we're making progress. We're moving backwards. We used to like the darkness, but the world looks to a new light. It's manufactured.
They won't listen to you. There's a reason they withdrew.
Okay, so we did actually hit -5 in that chorus. It was right around the word indifference, but our pre-master came in quite a bit under. So we're only hitting like 7 over here. So that does mean what we're doing here with that compression and also that mix is doing quite a lot. It's taking 2 whole decibels of volume out of this. So let's pop these things up by, let's jump them up by 1.5. It doesn't need to be necessarily exactly 5 because we're also going to be turning this compressor on and getting that to level match as well. So let's see what it does now. When we say that word indifference in the chorus, we know that the song pops up to -5. Where does our pre-master thing?
Guardians of His word, we are called to strengthen our purpose. The world looks to us, but what they see is indifference. Temptations of power have blinded many. Within His house they dwell. Our message hated, the waters tainted. There's poison in the well.
Okay, yeah, so we hit 5.4, which makes sense. We weren't going to hit actual 5 because we didn't turn it up that same amount, but we're pretty good there. 5.4 is good. So let's take a look now at our compressor. This right here, the FBC FG Red, is going in stereo mode, or dual mono mode, sorry, so that we are again compressing the left and right channels independently. Same settings for both, but compressing them independently. And we again want to make sure that this is still hitting right around, -5, so that we're not losing any volume by whatever we're compressing. So again, we're compressing the entire signal now, not an individual volume frequency. So let's kind of take a look. We shouldn't see this like jumping real crazy either. It might be doing a lot, but it shouldn't be going much beyond that -3 because we've done a whole lot of compression here.
Guardians of His word, we are called to strengthen our purpose. The world looks to us, but what they see is indifference. Temptations of power have blinded many. Within His house they dwell. Our message hated, the waters tainted. There's poison in the well.
Okay, so that hit -5, so that's pretty good, -5.1. Now there is one thing I want to check here. This compressor doesn't do much to color the sound, but it can do a little bit. You can see that my thing right here says 2020 2022 Master. This is a setting that I've been using for a long time. I did actually use a different setting on the Wicked Mistress album, the Sarvik album Wicked Mistress, and I'm just kind of curious if we switch it over to the Wicked Mistress one, does it sound any different? Does it sound any better? Just out of curiosity.
Guardians of His word, we are called to strengthen our purpose. The world looks to us, but what they see is indifference. Temptations of power have blinded many. Within His house they dwell. Our message hated, the waters tainted. There's poison in the well.
Interesting. It did sound a little bit different, didn't it? I don't know if it was better, but it did sound a little different. Switch back to what we were looking at.
Guardians of His word, we are called to strengthen our purpose. The world looks to us, but what they see is indifference. Temptations of power have blinded many. Within His house they dwell.
Yeah, I think we're going to stick with this one. There's something that's a little bit clearer about this one, I feel like. Okay, so the intro's pretty good.
Guardians of His word,
The chorus goes way above.
guardians of His word, we are called to strengthen our purpose. The world looks to us, but what they see is indifference. Temptations of power have blinded many. Within His house they dwell.
Okay, so yeah, we're going to keep it at 11 decibels, just decibels down from where we had it, because it's coming in pretty hot. Okay, next thing, we hit constantly monitoring, which basically disables the loudness part of the gain knob, but it does still give us what the limiter is doing. So we can turn the limiter on and off here and see what exactly we're losing.
Our message hated. The waters tainted. There's poison in the well.
Yeah, you know what? I'm not sure that we're really losing anything there. Okay. Good there. The last thing that Okay. Yes. All right. Now, unfortunately, we are going to have to make a small change to Boundless and re-export this one too. I really hate to say that, but because we liked that louder bass drum in Poison in the Well better, we need to apply that to Boundless too. And that is literally the only change we need to make. That is such a tiny, tiny little half decibel change for us having to sit here for a little while. So, okay. Let's get it over with. Now, again, this song is much shorter than Poison in the Well. It's not going to be quite as long of a silence, but it is still going to be a little bit of a silence. So we're just going to export this song real quick. Then we'll jump back into a mastering template, get this one pulled in there, and kind of do the same thing we did with Poison in the Well. Okay. No more exporting this stream, okay? We will have one more silence, and then unless I forget to mute my stream mic, that won't happen again. Okay, let me get a little bit of silence here while we set up our mastering template for this song, and then, again, unless I forget to solo my stream mic, we won't have any more weird silences on this stream. Okay, there we go. We're back now. Okay, let me finish setting some stuff up here. Oh, I could be doing this while the song is playing. Okay, so we're pretty much in the same spot that we were here. We need to have this right here output to a different bus, which we need to call pre-master. We're going to put our FGX and our Soothe and our mid-range bandpass if we happen to need it on that. Then that needs to send to you guys. We need to make those pink, but we'll do that while the song is playing. All right, so we are going to import our Boundless mix. Okay, and just like before, we imported our tempo information and our markers so that we can still see where everything is going. The first thing we need to do is listen to the entire song to see if our peak our peak meter is reading -5. It probably won't. It'll be somewhere in the ballpark. So we'll go ahead and give this thing a listen, and in the meantime, I'll get the rest of this stuff set where it should. But you guys should be hearing this when it plays.
A line of faces moves fast. Looking down, they know my name.
Very nice. Yeah, really happy with how this stuff is coming out at the moment, too. We have spent a long time on the 2 songs we've just listened to, and I think that work has been well worth it. Also, we hit -5. We hit it right on the head, which is crazy. So we don't need to mess with this at all. We can jump right into our buses here with the multipressors. So again, same thing as Poison in the Well here. Oh, I almost skipped a step. Good Lord, that would have been bad news. We need to set the fade in, the fade out, and the export range. So we're going to zoom way in on beat 1 right here. We can see that this does start pretty much right on beat 1 there. So we're going to set a millisecond long fade in. And then this yellow line at the top here, which normally is a loop, is setting our export range. So we set the beginning of that right to the beginning of the fade in. Then we need to jump out to the end of the song and determine where we're doing that. Now, this song doesn't fade out the way Poison in the Well kind of did. So what we need to do instead is listen to that end again and determine the point where everything has stopped for sure. We don't want to cut it off. It'll sound really weird if we cut like a reverb tail off or something. Right there. Just going to zoom in on that spot right there. Again, do like a millisecond long fade out. And then we want to set our export range to stop right at that node. Just like that. Song in the other room or something. It's always kind of funky to hear stuff on its own. And we are looking to get a little bit of compression, a little bit more than we were getting in the mix process with this stuff, but not too much. We definitely don't want to hear the compression working. Let's jump up to a chorus again. Okay, I think I'm good with that there. So let's move to low mids now. Just doing the same thing across all 4 frequencies, making sure that we have enough compression without it sounding like it's ducking. I feel like we did a really good job clearing low mids out of that range on this song. That is usually a lot more muddy. I feel like even when we were listening to Poison in the Well just now, that range was a lot more muddy, whereas this one still seems pretty clear. Good with that. Let's move into the high mids. Okay, and And just like with last time, we want to do the highs really quick. Now, I want to point out, I want to be clear about this when you guys are watching this. I'm not, unless you're listening to this at an unhealthy volume, I'm not going to hurt your hearing with anything that I'm doing here. So when I mention we want to be quick doing this one, or you could damage your ears, we would have to do a lot for you to like need to go to the hospital or anything. You know what I mean? I don't want to tire my ears out so that we have to stop the stream when I have more time to get work done, is more what I mean. So I guess maybe hurting your ears might be putting it a little bit violently. But still, we want to do this one pretty quick so the ears don't get tired. Yep, okay. Think we got that one. Okay, now we're going to mix those frequencies. I'm going to take them one by one. These sliders over here that are those, the lows, the low mids, the high mids, and the highs. I'm going to take them all the way down and then slowly bring it back up until it feels right. Usually, if we've done a really good job in the mix, they just go pretty much right back to zero where they were. Sometimes I end up with the low mids a little bit lower than all the rest, but not every time. Eli says he's on his way to the hospital now. Thanks for that. Yes. Let's just listen to the chorus again and just kind of see where those 2 meters sit with the chorus.
Free now to run in the endless sky. I lose my worries. The pain is gone. My tired body left behind me. I feel the sun as I move beyond these trivial problems. Free now to run. I'm boundless now.
Okay, so the song's peak meter hits 5 right around the end of the chorus where we say I'm boundless now, but our pre-master only hit 6.2. So if we bring these up a decibel, that should fix that problem. Now we need to take a look at the VBC FG red, which again is running in dual mono, so we're compressing the left and right signals independently of one another. And we want to listen to that same section again and see how this is not only affecting the sound, it shouldn't be affecting the sound very much. We want to make sure that it's not compressing too hard and that we're still hitting right around -5 on that submaster.
Free now to run in the endless sky. I lose my worries. The pain is gone. My tired body left behind me. I feel the sun as I move beyond these trivial problems. Free now to run. I'm boundless now.
Okay, so we hit 5.2, which I think is close enough. Again, it doesn't need to be exact. Okay, so then now we need to be taking a look over at the FGX2 again. Now, my apologies for the health of the stream. It seems like the streaming software does not like this plugin, and it seems to kind of screw up every time I bring it up. So let's try and do this step quick, just in case it's doing weird stuff.
Free now to run. I'm boundless now.
Okay, the chorus seems to be hanging out right around -7, which is what we want. Didn't seem like we were losing any highs or mids. I think we're good. Again, we do have that soothe, the same thing, coming in right after that limiter, just making sure that nothing in the mix is going to stab you in the ears. All right, so we are at the very beginning of this one. Oh, geez, computer. Here we go. Okay, so I did some stuff off stream to this one, and it's the same stuff as normal. All I did was all the routing, which, as you guys probably remember, is super boring. It's a lot of clicking, a lot of just me talking, trying to fill the space. It takes a lot longer now that my computer is so slow, thanks to that update that it did. But other than that, this thing is right where we left it, right at the beginning. We need to start from the beginning of this one, and we are starting with the presets that we have now established across Poison in the Well and Boundless. except for we need to turn that bass drum up a little bit more. Everything else is the same. Now, there are a lot of elements in this song that are new that are not in the other ones. There's the rain sound effects, which we're going to have to come up against. A lot more orchestra stuff because, again, this one is Sam focused. I'm gonna just talk about this one for just a little bit to let the ears kind of reset and everything. I was definitely starting to feel a little bit of strain there at the end of hearing that Boundless there. So song number 3 is one that Sam wrote ages ago, probably right around the same time he wrote Nocturnal Images, which was on the A Decadence Divine album from almost 10 years ago. My gosh. So it's a very Sam-focused song. We left it mostly instrumental because it didn't feel like it needed many vocals on top of it. Sam was doing a lot of really interesting things with the piano and with the strings, and of course the things that Eli and I and James and Dad added as well. So there's a little section of vocals, Majennica-focused vocals, but most of the song is going to be about what Sam is doing. So we're going to have an interesting time mixing this one for that reason. It's got a totally different kind of theme to it as far as that goes. Now, I do kind of feel like this fits the general theme of the album of moving on beyond loss. Moving past loss. Or something really negative happening in your life, because this could represent the, kind of being lost and trying to find your way, the forgotten wanderer, that sort of thing. And I feel like this fits that really well. But from a mixing standpoint, this is going to be not just your average metal song or your average prog metal song. This one, being mostly instrumental, needs to focus really heavily on the keyboards. So we're going to have to really find that good balance between letting the guitars, particularly the rhythm guitars, be in there well enough to hear, but maybe they don't need to be as upfront as normal, just because we really need to hear what Sam's doing. Okay, so we need to do our context mix. You can see most of the faders are pulled down to nothing right now. We have our initial context, which is going to be the volume of the snare and bass drum, which is consistent across the other songs as well. So the snare up pretty high, the bass drum down, but balanced. And we need to get everything else up. And again, this isn't like final mix stuff that we're doing right here. We're not like making the official decisions. We're just making sure that we have enough context to make educated decisions about how things sound and which things need to come up and down. The more we get in, the better we'll understand how the other things need to change. So I think our first focus is going to be these 4 sliders over here. This is our spaced pair of stereo overheads right here, and our hi-hat and ride mic. Again, just in case you need reminding, I do mix from drummer's perspective, not audience perspective, so we will be hearing the hi-hat on the left. I do want to check one thing here real fast. I brought in our instance of Soothe from Boundless that was helping us tame the really harsh hi-hat. Okay, and it is bypassed. I want to leave that in bypass unless we need it. And if we don't need it in this song, I'm going to take that plug-in off so that it's not doing stuff. All right, let's jump up to where the drums actually start and get started on our context mix. By the way, this is going to be much quieter than the other ones we were hearing because we don't have a limiter on yet. Let me go ahead and turn it up for you guys just a little bit more. What do you know? We got floor tom 2 in this one. Floor tom 2 does not currently sound very good. because we have not had it in the other songs, so we're going to need to put effects on it. Yeah, so that is like straight from the drum to the mic, so we haven't put effects on that yet. Okay, looks like we've got another backward cymbal in the song. We've also got some auxiliary toms. Okay, I'm going to go back near the beginning. Now, normally I would bring in the rhythm guitars right here, but let's actually start with some of the pianos and strings. I want to mix them to the context of the drums, though, so we need to go back where there are drums. I want to check something really fast. Sorry for all the starts and stops. Okay, yes, I did leave our boost at 600, cut at 1,000, and then the strings do the opposite thing. I wanted to make sure that that was there. Okay. This is one of my favorite parts right there. I do think hearing that the cymbals are a little loud. This is a low strings track. Why is that up here? That needs to be up there. Okay, 1 second. I think we need to go ahead and affect that floor tom too. That's driving me nuts that one sounds weird. Doesn't sound like all the rest of them. Okay, so we've got the drum leveler on it already. We want the virtual mix rack with Tom's aggro. We just need a level match. There it is. And then we need an EQ. We're going to low pass everything under the fundamental. We're definitely going to boost a little bit of stick hit. Much better. Okay, I think we can stand to bring the rhythm guitars in now. James first and then me. There we are. Okay, yeah, again, I think that is going to be a very careful balance of making sure you can tell what the guitars are doing, but also not putting them maybe as upfront as they would be in a normal song. Okay, so now we're on to leads. Oh yeah, okay, we've got quite a bit of lead channels on this one, and we've got a James lead here, which is neat. It's not something that's super common in AfterWinter music. There's a spot where James and I are in harmony lead here. Okay, I think we'll work with that for now. And now we just need our little bit of vocals. those vocals are another thing that we're going to have to kind of do special stuff with. I don't necessarily want them to be that dry, you know what I mean? I want them to feel kind of like mysterious and far off. So we're definitely going to need some good reverb on that. Maybe some delay. Let's go ahead and put the vocal reverb and delay in now. And again, we probably mess with it later, but something to start with.
Don't give up. I am beside you. Don't lose hope. I will guide you.
Yeah. It's closer to what I kind of had in mind, but it's definitely not it. We're definitely going to have to mess with that more. Okay, so I think we've got our context mix moving pretty well here. We are where we need to be at the moment anyway. So let's kind of get everything put at either zeros or 0.5s. I do want to hear those toms. In previous songs, those toms have been kind of naturally a little bit better in balance. So just make sure that I've got tom 1 like way louder than the other ones. Is that correct? Yeah, I'd say it is. Okay, and then we've kind of set our hi-hat mics at around 24, at least average. We seem to have an average of about negative 11.5 on the overheads. We want our extra ones over here to be the same. Our extra cymbal hits, 11.5. Oops. There we go. Haven't done the drum crush yet. Our backward cymbal at negative 10. Looks like our auxiliary toms are about negative 2 or so. The bass is already at negative 7. The guitars we got already. My guitar is about 1.5 decibels quieter than James's, which is what we have been doing. These are pretty close to normal amounts. Okay. This song is so neat. I really like this one. This is one that we have been meaning to use for a long time. I mean, the previous band even talked about using this one and then just never got around to it. We talked about using it for Paramnesia, and there wasn't a spot that we felt like we could put it without needing to drastically change it to fit the story. So I'm glad that we got to use it for this one. I think that this one might be a little bit polarizing for fans. You know what I mean? This one, either people are going to be like, man, that one was so cool, or people are going to be like, that one was, I don't know. Your average listener pays a lot more attention to vocals than anything else. And so when you decide to do an instrumental or even mostly instrumental song, you are pretty much deciding that at least a decent portion of your listeners are going to probably dislike the song. But oh well. I really like this one. I love the vibe of it. I love the ambience of it. As per usual, Sam just absolute genius, master strokes with what he's able to do and the stuff he thinks of. Stuff I never would have thought of, you know. All right, looks like BG2 has got a lot of really different stuff. Looks like we're averaging maybe 15, though. Our vocal reverb's a lot higher than normal, just in that effort to get it to be... Oh, geez, I forgot about the rain sound effects. Well, let's get those in there. Yep, I looked right over those sliders. Whoops. That's pretty neat, right? Hope none of you have to pee. And as in typical AfterWinter fashion, that is an actually recorded sound effect. That's not from a library of effects or anything. Yeah, at least for now, I'm good with it right there. Okay, so we need to make sure, yeah, those ended up at about -6. All right, so what we're looking at now to continue our context mix is that we need each individual master channel to be hitting -7 so that we can make sure that when we put effects on them that they are affecting them at the correct rate, essentially. So the next thing we need to do is let the whole song play from beginning to end, and then take a pretty good look at each one of our submasters and masters to see where they're peaking at, turn things up and down accordingly. This does usually take 2, maybe 3 listen-throughs to get everything where we actually want it at. We do need to start by turning off any effects that are currently active on these channels, which is going to change a little bit of our context mix that we just did. So we want to make sure that these things are hitting -7 before they hit any of the effects. Other than this channel EQ on the orchestra master, which is pretty drastically affecting the sound. I'd say we want that to be hitting -7 there. Okay. Full listen through start to finish. Okay. Okay, Eli says there's some weird stuff right at the beginning. Weird piano note right before everything kicks in. The first tom fill has another rim shot. Oh, yeah. We'll definitely check that out. Yeah, there's definitely there's a snare fill somewhere that hits above -7, so we're definitely going to want to take a look out for that. Maybe it's also right there in the beginning. Our toms came in about half a decibel below. Okay, we'll do that. Our overheads came in about 7 decibels below. So we put that at 17. That ought to fix that. Okay, so remember too that now that we're trying to get all of these submasters and masters to hit 7, that we're going to be unbalancing this. So it's going to sound weirder and weirder the more we work to get this stuff in here. All of our auxiliary stuff is coming in at -10. So just be aware that on our next listen through, everything is going to sound super unbalanced. But that's okay. Definitely want to check out that weird stuff Eli was mentioning too before we do that next playthrough. Okay, the rhythm guitars are coming in about really 7.5 lower than they should. So again, if we put my guitars at 7, that should put everything. I think that's what we did in Boundless too, is my guitars ended up at 7. Okay, all of the pianos are coming in at 12, which means they need to go up by 5. Put that there. Lots of pianos and strings in this one. The strings are also coming in at 12. So that should fix that. The leads are coming in at 15.5. Oh boy, so we need to go up 8.5. Is there anything? Yeah. Okay, that should fix that, although a couple of these ended up at weird values. Okay, Majenica's vocals came in, okay, basically at 22, but actually, oh, I hate negative numbers math. -22, that would be -16 is what they came in at. Ugh. Oh, I hate negative number math. Okay, and we need them to come up 9, so if we put them there, that should do that. And then again, the background vocals came in at -16. So again, if we go up 9, that should fix that. Put those at 0.5s. And then I want to make sure I don't forget the rain sound effects. I almost did. Those came in at 26.1. Now, it's okay if these aren't coming in at 7. Even if we turn these all the way up, they're not going to. So if we turn these up to 0, that's going to put them in at -20, which is still quite a ways away. We don't seem to be having a problem getting them to come through the mix, though, so maybe that's okay. Let's just let them be at -20, and we'll go ahead and turn that master off. All right, let's see what Eli was talking about. Weird piano note right before everything comes in. And then that tom fill. Might have been something that popped out more when the mix was different. Didn't hear it right there anyway. And then let's jump back to the beginning and check out the drums. Okay, yeah, I think we're okay. What's our volumes looking like? Okay, and that's not where the snare peaked either. Okay, good. So at least at the moment, it seems like we're okay there. But good looking out, for sure. See if that piano note jumps out at us. Okay, so another full listen through all the way through. Keep in mind, again, this is going to be super unbalanced. We're going to rebalance everything. That last note on high piano 1, he says. High piano 1. Is that but jumping out weird? Yeah, it is louder in the right. Which is a little weird. Definitely keep an eye on that. Okay, yeah. Nice. Yeah. Cody says them keys sort of Zelda-esque, maybe a hint of Final Fantasy. Yes, I'm sure Sam would agree and be appreciative of that. Yes. As we know, Sam does like some Zelda. That is for sure. All right, so let's see where we're at now. Now, our kick and snare is still coming in at 6.3. It's because of that one snare fill. I was watching there for a while, but I still missed it. The toms hit where we want, so let's get rid of those for now. The overheads hit where we want. Let's get rid of those for now. Auxiliary percussion, good to go. The bass is good to go. Rhythm guitars are good to go. Yep, pianos are where we want. Orchestra's also good. So remember, again, we're doing context mix here. We're trying to get all of our masters to hit -7 or thereabouts, which is why what we just heard was super unbalanced. Vocals hit exactly where we want in both regards. That's good. The background vocals did as well. We had already turned the rain sound effects off. Okay. Yeah. All right, let's seek out that snare fill that's too loud. We might as well do all of them. I mean, we're here. We're trying to get -7. Let's just check the entire snare fill channel for peaks above 7. Well, that one was okay. Yep. Yep, all those were fine. Yep, fine. Okay. We're definitely going to have to look through the groove snare track when we're really digging into this, because I think our gate on the virtual mix rack is getting rid of some of the groove snare. Yep. That's a weird one. Wonder why that one didn't end up as a backbeat snare. All good there. Well, it's in here somewhere. Ah. Now that one was loud, but it wasn't the one. Yeah, I heard only one of those 3 groove snares right there. Let's just go in here and turn the gate on the groove snare off for now. What was one of those? Okay. This guy right here. Whoops. Come on, computer. Work with me here. Definitely not what I would have expected that peak to be. good through that. Okay. Yeah, that groove snare is definitely going to need some sort of help in that gate. Now, I think what we did before was that we took a pretty hard cut with a high shelf. That is not what I meant to do. To try and cut some of that cymbal bleed out. We'll be, figuring that out more and more as we get through. We're not really at the point where we should be messing with that stuff yet, but just as a preliminary. Okay, so now we need to rebalance. We know that our snare fills is going to put our kick and snare master at -7. Yes. We know all of our submasters were hitting -7, so now we need to start bringing in, basically redoing our context mix, but using the master faders instead of the individual volume faders. So just like before, we are going to start with the overhead master. So we're going to be hearing kick and snare, bring in things one at a time here. Okay, I think I'm pretty good with where we're sitting at the moment. So the next step is to turn on the limiter. So we'll go ahead and go through the spiel again. I'll try and go through it quicker, but just in case anybody's watching here where they haven't before, a limiter here is a special kind of compressor that goes on at the end of the mastering chain. Now, we are not in the mastering phase yet, but it's good to mix with this on. What the limiter does is it sets a hard ceiling of volume that you cannot go above. You use the gain knob to turn the volume of your song up. When the louder parts hit that ceiling, it starts compressing them and they stop getting louder. The quieter parts keep getting louder. This is basically to bring it up to industry standard loudness. Again, this is something that normally goes on at the end of the mastering chain, and that will be true, but we are going to be continuing our mix with this limiter on before we export this finished mix. We're going to turn that back off. The reason we are the reason that we are mixing with it on is so that we have an idea of what the mastering process is going to do to our song. Limiting by definition destroys dynamics. This song in particular needs to have a lot of parts that where the energy is drawn back and is a little bit quieter, and we want to make sure that that is maintained, because again, the limiter is getting rid of that. Those loud parts stop getting louder, and the quiet parts are going to end up the same loudness as the loud parts. So with this on, we know to continue turning things down until we've maintained the dynamic we're trying to achieve. So again, that will get turned off before we export the finished mix, and then it'll get put on the mastering phase where it's supposed to go. But we mix with it on too, so that we have a good idea of what we're looking at. So now is the point of the mix where we usually turn that on, and we would be entering part 2 of the big mix process. So again, kind of 3 big parts for my personal mix process, the way at least I'm doing it right now. Step 1 is setting up and context mix, which we have now completed. Step 2 is sound detail, making sure everything sounds the way we want. So we're going to go through each individual track and review the settings that we've put on from the previous songs, Poison in the Well and Boundless. And then once that's finished, volume detail, where we're going back through every track again, paying special attention to what is on that track, making sure that we can hear it the way that we want to, or the way that suits the song the best. This is all a big kind of balance. We have to maintain the balance of everything throughout. So it's also important to remember that just because you're quote-unquote finished with a step, that doesn't mean that you can't go back and do parts of it again. This is especially true with the sound detail. Maybe the sound of something needs to change to make something in the volume detail work. And you can't ever make a 100% yes, I want this sound decision until everything sounds the way it's going to sound, because something sounding good by itself means nothing. It only matters if it sounds good in the context of the mix. So that's kind of what we've done right now. We've spent quite a bit of time setting up, making sure the mix sounds at least decently well. We can pretty much hear everything. We can hear the intention. We can hear what the dynamic is supposed to be, so that we can make better informed decisions on how things sound. Okay, now I'm unsure really of how much more time I have today. I think I have a student at 3:30. That student pretty often just doesn't show up without saying anything. So it's possible that we could go clear until 4:30, but I just don't know. I have no idea. And I'm not going to lie, I'm a little hesitant to dig into the sound detail step too much right at the moment, just because I like to do as much of that as we can in one chunk. I like to walk in with the right mindset. And I would hate to be interrupted in the middle of that and then have to come back, Monday, because we won't be able to stream Saturday or Sunday. But I do think that this song is sitting in a pretty good position at the moment, at least as well as we can without the volume automation. That sound detail, that third step is going to be volume detail, the third step, is going to be very important on this one, so that we maintain the balance of making sure that those guitars are in there, and this still sounds like a metal song, because it kind of is, but thematically speaking, what the strings and the pianos are doing are the most important thing in the song. So those have to come through. They are not support instruments like they were in Boundless, where it's okay if they're not like really super clearly heard. Most of the time, these pianos and strings are the point. So we're going to have a really, what am I trying to say here? We're going to have a difficult time, I think. I hope not, but we may have a difficult time making sure that those sit where they're supposed to. But I think we've got everything sitting pretty well at the moment to start digging in on that. Let's jump forward just a little bit again and take a listen to right where everything comes in again. Oh, 1 second. Now that I've turned the limiter on, the song is way, way, way louder. And I turned it up for you guys earlier. Let me put that back down where it normally is so that we're not blasting anybody's eardrums or speakers out. There we go. We lost the bass there for a minute. Brought it back. It was just buried under everything else. That piano, the last piano note kind of dies out right before everything comes in. I remember that's what Eli said. It was the last piano note right before everything kind of hits. And it's kind of like quieter than everything else, and it kind of like dies really fast. Yeah. I don't know that it sounds like that by itself, but definitely with everything in, it does. It is a little quiet even by itself, isn't it? Let's take a look real fast. Now this is going to kill my mic. But we can go into the edits project, and we can actually see the MIDI performance of that section. And if necessary, we can make that note a little bit more powerful. Okay, I think you guys should hear me now again. Okay, yeah, gosh, that took forever for this thing to load. Okay, high piano 1. Gosh, let's hope we don't have to open that again. That was a nightmare a little bit. Okay, so now we want to import that. So we're going to go into the edits, Forgotten Wanderer edits. Yep, right there. We'll just bring in the audio. We don't need anything else. There we go. It's the wrong color, but there it is. Fix the color. There we go. Pop that up in there. It's odd that it won't let us pull that back any. Okay. So maybe it is that orchestra thing that happens that goes bah right when the keyboard goes da 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 da. That is like a bit loud there. Okay. Just make sure that we are where I'm pretty sure we're at. I think we are. Okay. Yeah. Considering my 3:30 student should be here today, there's no reason to assume she just won't show. So let's go ahead and close her out. So we did a ton of work today. We did mastering for Poison in the Well and Boundless, at least first drafts of both of those. So that's really exciting. That means that, you know, if those are fine, and I usually end up going back through and changing a couple things, so it's probably not final, but if those are fine, that's 2 of those songs totally done. 2 out of the 11. Really, it's kind of more 10 than the song number 10 or track 10 is more of a prelude to track 11 than it is its own song. So yeah, there's 11 tracks, kind of only 10 songs. So 2 of those done, and we're in a really good place with the third one, somewhere that we can jump in a lot easier next time. And again, we should be able to, for the most part, just kind of review. Are the effects that we've already done in these songs in previous in Poison in the Well and Boundless, are the effects we've done for these tracks still good? Most of them probably are fine. And then we're jumping into volume automation, which might take a little bit of extra time on this one than it did on Boundless because of the delicate balance that we got to strike. This one's about a little bit longer than 6 minutes, so it's longer than Boundless, not as long as Poison in the Well. So yeah, might spend a couple of episodes on that volume automation, the volume detail stuff, but who knows? We'll see. Okay, so as per usual, no streams on Saturday or Sunday, but we should be back here at some point on Monday. Not sure when, but at some point on Monday we should be able to get some more streaming in, so hopefully we will see you guys all in on that one. All of the normal stuff here, though. Whether you're watching right now, whether you were watching before, whether you're watching this in the future when it's not live, I really appreciate every second of your time that you've spent watching this, listening to me ramble, checking out the band's stuff. Really hope that you're enjoying what you're watching and enjoying what you're hearing. Hoping maybe that it's the slightest bit educational in that sort of realm. But also, again, AfterWinter doesn't perform live, so it's always really great to have direct connection with the fans, showing you guys this new music that we've been excited about for a long time, kind of revealing it to anybody who's willing to come in here and sit and watch it kind of shape up and be made. I think it's really cool. I hope you guys also agree with that. Again, thank you so much for all the support. I really appreciate it. Everybody in the band really appreciates it. This whole thing is just a lot of fun to do. So we will see you guys hopefully on Monday for another stream.